welcome to the Boopcast, episode 40. We are your hosts, SheNoob and...
Cory.
And joining us this week, we have a very special returning guest, Miss Laurelei Lee.
Hi, guys.
Okie dokie. So, if anybody isn't aware of who you are, Laurelei Lee, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into RWBY?
Yeah, so I'm a RWBY reactor on YouTube. I do RWBY reaction videos every week when the videos come out. I've only been doing it since Volume 4, though, because I didn't learn about RWBY until I was in college, and my little sister was a huge fan of Rooster Teeth already, and I had been aware of them, but mostly like watching Achievement Hunter and everything. So she told me to watch these trailers one day, and I'm like, oh, those seem pretty cool. And it actually took me a couple tries watching the first few episodes before I finally really got into the show. And then I was just hooked. I watched all of it that was out in one day, and I completely caught up, and I've been obsessed ever since. And after the end of Volume 3, I'm like, you know, I make a lot of facial expressions when I'm watching this stuff. Maybe I should put it on YouTube. So that's where I am now.
Awesome. And Cory, I did just notice that your name is wrong in the overlay. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I will fix that. So
You had it right last week, so that's why I was confused at why you had it wrong this week.
I'm also confused why it's wrong. That's really strange.
I figured this would happen eventually.
I know why. No, sorry, I'll just fix it really quick. So, yeah, Laurelei is an amazing reactor to RWBY. I love watching her reactions, so make sure you go check her out on her YouTubes and her Twitters. And, yeah, we will be discussing Chapter 11 today, which was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I am so blown away by RWBY every week this year. They just somehow keep making amazing episodes, and I don't know how they're doing it. Where the heck is my thing gone? Sorry, I was trying to sort this out and talk at the same time, and it's not really working. I keep losing my train of thought. Cory, take over quickly while I fix this film.
Okay, well, I mean, we haven't posted this in the chat yet, so I'm going to quickly just put the spoilers warning in there, just so people know. But yeah, I don't know. We're talking about this just amazing chapter, and like I am with you. We've said this like basically every episode this year, but like I can't believe the season just keeps getting better.
Yeah,
like
I don't know how they
I just don't understand how they do that. Like
every episode is incredible. Like even like the slightly filler episodes, they're like out of this world amazing.
I would say that there have definitely been some weaker episodes, but they are not bad by any stretch of the word. They're still good episodes. And I don't know how they're doing that. I really don't. It's just been insane this volume. And obviously they've put so much work into this volume as well. Here we go. Just replace that overlay really quick.
Oh, Pitchin just said Grimaclips had a new update today.
The new content's out for Grimaclips, yeah.
Oh, I forgot they were doing that.
Yeah, the new DLC. That has gone live on all platforms today, I believe. Yeah, so that's exciting. If you want to get Grimaclips, it is available on Steam, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And I think 360 as well, isn't it? Is it available on 360? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
Look it up. Google it. Yeah. So, Grim Gauntlet for everyone. Yeah, and the new DLC for consoles, yeah. Yeah, so, Chapter 11. Yeah, this is, well, I called the podcast the one we've all been waiting for, because this is the chapter we've all been waiting for, not just for the volume, but for quite some time. And this chapter was extremely polarizing in the fandom, for a couple of very specific reasons, which we will get to later. We will touch on it. I feel like this podcast could get not necessarily heated between us, but we will have some strong opinions on the content in the episode itself, but also on the way that certain people in the fandom have responded to and handled that. So, fair warning, this is going to be a heated one, I feel like. So we're all going to probably express our opinions on that and on the fandom in general at this time as well. So, yeah. Anywho, let's start by maybe if I open up my notes, that would be good. Maybe if I do my job. But you know, he wants to do that. That's no fun. Yeah, so I did watch the Kruby this week.
I was about to say, you said you had a couple things you wanted to say about the Kruby.
Cory has seen the rewind, so he will be talking about that. But I did watch the Kruby, and there are a couple of things I wanted to mention. So the Kruby was all about storyboarding and the program that they use to storyboard, and it's all done digitally, so it's still done by hand on tablets and whatnot, but it's all done in a digital program, which is the way these days. Nobody does anything on paper anymore. So the one thing I wanted to mention was when they talked about the initial part, the Blake versus Adam fight, moving through the trees, how they wanted to give it really Spider-Man kind of vibes, and I definitely felt that when I was watching the episode. I was like, this is giving me major Spider-Man vibes, and it was really cool. They also referred to Jean, Nora, and Ren as Team Junior, which I thought was interesting that they're actually calling them that. And they interviewed one Kruby member in particular who I have seen in several of these before. I forget her name now, completely escapes me, but I didn't write it down. Why didn't I write it down? But she, like so many other people in the Kruby now who are working on the show and who are making the episodes every year, were fans of the show before they actually were brought on to work on it. So I think she's actually been there since the start of Volume 5, this particular woman. And it's so awesome to see that, like, they are bringing in people in the fandom who are massive fans of the show, who possess the talent and the skills necessary to actually make and produce the show. I love that they're doing that, and it's showing in how much RWBY has improved just in the last couple of years, and especially this volume has been absolutely incredible. And I feel like some of the credit goes towards them hiring these people who not only love the show so much, but are also obviously incredibly talented people. And then again, also all of the automation they've been doing with the animation this volume, that's making the process go so much faster, means they get to get so much more done in the same amount of time. And it's really, RWBY is thriving off of all of this. So it's really good to see that they're making those decisions and that the show is being better for it. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about Kruby, really.
Yes, Bish, and she was the one in the Kruby thumbnail.
Yes, the one in the thumbnail. Yeah, I cannot remember her name for the life of me. If somebody wants to go get that for me right now, pop it in the chat. I'd appreciate that. We've all been waiting for Yang to get her revenge on Edgelord Faunus Magneto. I mean, accurate, though.
It is very accurate.
Okie dokie. So, the rewind. What was the tea on the rewind, Cory?
I mean, not a ton, but, like, one thing they were all blown away about is the fact that they predicted Yang running Adam over.
Yeah.
Like, they made a joke about it last week where they were like, wouldn't it be funny? And then it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's so funny because they had Issa on last episode and she has read all the scripts.
Rachel Doda. Thank you, Laurelei. Rachel Doda, that's her name.
So I don't know how Issa was able to, like, just be like, yes, completely stone-faced, I know nothing. Even though she knew this was going to happen, that they were making these jokes, and it happened.
That's what's so interesting about them having on people who are actually working on the show, like, as they speak, that are, like, having to bite their tongue and, like, especially when they make correct predictions. I feel like it must be so difficult for them to just sit there and not say anything. It would be so hard for me, because, like, even when we did the first Boopcast, when we'd already seen Chapter 2, it was so difficult to talk about Chapter 1 without talking about Chapter 2. I'm like, I can't imagine how they feel when they know everything's going to happen for the rest of the volume from here on. Probably. Mm-hmm. Well, they definitely would. I mean, we're getting close to wrapping up now, so... Yeah. Gosh, I don't know how they do that.
I know, right? But then the other thing in the rewind I wanted to note was they had Barbara on again as a guest, and they briefly touched on Bumblebee shipping stuff, and she said basically that like there have been a lot of things that have been in the work since the beginning, and we are not pandering to an audience or taking fan feedback too closely. So basically she was saying like, you know, kind of like if Bumblebee happens, it was planned.
Yeah.
Not because people wanted to see it.
Yeah. I mean, that we've always said that about not just the Bumblebee ship, but anything in the show. If something happens, it's because it was meant to happen that way. It was always meant to happen that way. And if Bumblebee does become canon, it's because it was meant to become canon. It has nothing to do with the fandom and how they feel one way or another. If they're gonna do something major, like put these two main characters into a relationship with one another, it's because that was always going to happen, and it's got nothing to do with what we say or how we feel one way or the other about it. And no matter how much of a stink people kick up, and no matter how much hate they spew, and how many death threats they send, it's gonna happen whether you like it or not. So, like, there's nothing we can do to influence or control it at this point. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And like, it doesn't matter what we say or do about it. They're going to do what they feel is right for the show and right for these characters. So, yeah, that's my initial 2 cents on that. We'll get into a bit more later. But, anything else on the rewind, or?
I don't. They brought up one point, but I feel like it'd be better to talk about it later. Okay. So we'll talk about it when we get to that.
No worries. Okay, so Bishan has always seen the previews every time he watches the Boopcast, and I feel like you are always in constant danger of slipping and saying something you shouldn't.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that I normally I don't watch the preview. I skip past it, but I did skip to after it, and all I heard was Chad say, "Whoa, that was amazing," and I went, "Nope, close."
Even that's too much. Like, we don't want to know. Mm-hmm. No, we don't want to know anything. Yeah. Oh my god, chapter 12. I'm dying waiting for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the chapter itself. Initial thoughts on the chapter is that I loved it. There are a lot of not complaints. I guess complaints. People were saying that the mecha fight at the beginning with everyone was lackluster. I saw even some people saying that it was crap or it was boring, and I was like, it's none of these things. First of all,
no, that was incredible.
It's none of these things. It's a very different kind of fight. That's the thing. It's not an Adam versus Yang. Let's not expect it to be. It's a group fight, and I know group fights are extremely challenging, not only to choreograph but to keep up with everybody. And there's how many people? Ruby Weiss, Oscar, Crow, Jr. There's like Maria, 8 people, and Cordovan, and the giant mech. Like, they've got to keep up with all of these things at once. So, of course, they're not going to be as high of a standard as the one-on-one fights, where they can focus a lot more in on just the 2 people that are involved. And also, after viewing the second half of the episode, we all should understand why the first half was maybe not given as much attention. Because the Adam versus Blake and Adam versus Yang section of the episode is just incredible. So obviously that has taken up most of the focus. But having said that, that's animated by different people than the first half of the episode. It's different people that have animated this. So, I think that also comes into play as a different style in animation as well. It's not to say anything in the first half of the episode was bad, because it wasn't. There were a few moments where I went, that animation feels a little slower or a little out of place, and that starts to happen towards the end of the volume. We start to see the animation not necessarily decline in quality, but it does seem like
mistakes fall through a little more often.
Fall through. They do try to cut corners to save time, and even when I was watching the chapter last night, I noticed that they have fixed something that was majorly bothering me in my first initial viewings of the chapter, because I watched it like 6 times on the day it came out, and then 2 more times the next day, and I haven't seen it since. So that since then they have actually fixed something that was quite major, that I noticed anyway. So we'll start from the beginning. So we start right back where we left off with I don't know what to call this team anymore. There's too many freaking people in it. With the main group.
Team Relic.
Sure. Sure. The mech is absolutely enormous. Like, the scale of that thing, it is just massive, and what a technical nightmare that thing must be. They touched on it a little bit in the storyboard in Kruby, but I really would have liked the Kruby to explore more about the technical aspects of the mech itself, because it's massive and it's a huge undertaking, and even like the dust blaster on it, I'm like, oh my god, what an animating nightmare. Like,
what a compositing nightmare.
What a compositing nightmare too. Holy crap, there's so many dust effects in this chapter. Yeah, oh my gosh. There's so many like particle effects and all that. I'm like, oh my god, this would have taken so long to composite, not just to put together, but to composite and render. Ugh. I can just imagine the hours. Like, when I watch Ruby, I see all of the work that goes into every little tiny thing. And, like, I look at something like that mech, and I'm like, that must have taken forever. What a nightmare. And I appreciate it from that point of view, where, like, even if it's not perfect, and if somebody will go, oh, it was animated so badly, I'm like, yeah, but what you see probably took hundreds of hours put together. So, like, I will excuse whatever problems there are for the amount of work that's gone into this. So Cordovan says something interesting at the start here. She's crapping on, as she does throughout the whole chapter, and after 8 times watching it, it gets a little bit old. But she says something along the lines of, you thought you could, like, hold up against the might of the Atlesian military. And I'm like, bitch, you're a little old lady in one mech. That's the Atlesian military. Okay, sure.
Well, the line I found most weird there is she called them spider roaches.
Spider roaches.
And I'm like, is this Avatar: The Last Airbender? What are spider roaches?
I feel like, well, first of all, spider roaches are disgusting. But I feel like, why does nobody know what a spider roach is? Okay, Google spider roach, but please don't post a picture anywhere, because they're disgusting. I hate them. Yeah, I feel like her using words like spider roaches, and she also says you are ants, you're lower than ants, is supposed to be, like, symbolic for how not only she views people outside of Atlas, but how Atlas people view people outside of Atlas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lorelei's looking, they're disgusting, right?
They're really gross.
Horrifying.
So gross. Somebody put a picture in my Discord so other people can see, but wow, I hate them. Oh dear God, fuck no. I'm torturing everyone. Listen, I need to educate you all. Spider roaches are nasty. But yeah, I feel she, like, views them as, like, insects and that kind of thing. But also, I feel like it's a way of getting around her using bad words. Which Ruby does use some strange
using
words.
slurs.
Yeah, Ruby does use some strange words sometimes in place of what should be swear words, really. But they use, they use curse words where they're appropriate. But also, they're not being on YouTube anymore. They could probably go ham if they wanted to, but Ruby's not like that, and it probably never will be, so... they divided, yeah. I've got Ruby's face. Oh, Ruby's face when she's, like, snipes the
the missile,
the mech from the missile from distance, and then she like looks up above the camera, and I'm like, ugh, I'm living for sassy Ruby this volume. Like, I'm living for her. She's fabulous. I love her to pieces. She's finally getting some proper character development. Only took 6 years, but you know. And she's just, I'm just living for her attitude this volume, because she, up until this point, has been sort of like a peacemaker between everyone, but now she's taking charge and she's telling Crow to shove his attitude, and she's like taking initiative with Maria, like asking her to teach her about her silver eyes, and making sure that everybody's sort of remaining cohesive unit. She even got mad at Jean when he was being unreasonable in chapter 9. I'm so out. I'm like, I don't know what chapter anymore.
I was like, was it 8? No, it was
together
9.
at this point in the volume. She's
no,
like,
wait, it wasn't it chapter 8?
What, the Pyrrha?
I think it was
the Pyrrha chapter. No, it was
no, she wasn't
9.
mad at. She was No, she didn't get mad at him in the Pyrrha chapter.
He got mad at him in the previous chapter. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
See, it all lumps together at this point.
It does all lump together.
I'm like, I don't know what's what. I don't know what's where. I don't, like, so much has happened this volume. I'm like, I've forgotten half of it. And I'm like, I don't know where anything is anymore. I can't believe we have only 2 chapters to go. That blows my mind. I'm like, oh my god, it's almost over. Ruby's range this volume has been amazing to watch. Yes, it certainly has. She has been fabulous. The first bit of animation in this that I noticed looked really awkward was when Weiss jumps out of the airship initially. That's janky. I don't think it looks very good, that animation, and they haven't touched it up since then either. I watched it last night. I was like, yeah, that still doesn't look very good. But again, little things like that tend to fall through the cracks. They don't get as much attention as other things. Because the very next shot, when she she lifts her Mertnaster in the air and does the glyphs to pull up the gravity dust, looks amazing. Like that few set of shots in there, I'm like, oh my god, it's so pretty. I could watch that forever. But immediately before it is like, oh god, that doesn't look good when she jumps out of the airship. I don't know what about it exactly, but it's just doesn't sit right with me. But I absolutely adore the shots of her like lifting the gravity dust to stop the ice dust. Do we call it ice dust? No,
she lifted the ice dust to stop the, I think it was earth dust, because she fires the dust later at
because Cordovan fired the ice dust.
Yeah,
no,
that
didn't.
First time she did, actually.
Yeah, she
did. She?
Yeah.
Because the wall of rock was on Ruby's side of everything.
Yeah.
See, I
and
was
the ice was on the cliff.
That confused me as well, because I was like, wait, why is like half of her shot on this side? But I assumed, especially because in the Kruby, when they show the like storyboard for that scene, it shows Weiss raising ice, not earth.
Yeah, they could well have changed it, but she definitely, if you watch it frame by frame, she raises gravity dust out of her glyphs, and that stops the ice dust, which collides with the gravity dust.
I mean, I was confused. I was like, why is half the like shot that she stopped on this side of the wall?
Yeah, because it's actually called Evan. Yeah. Oscar has a line here. He says that was close, but the delivery was really weird on this line, and I'm like, when I watched it the first time, I was like, was that Oscar? Like, it doesn't sound like him. It was a strange delivery for that line. I'm not sure why it was so strange, but it just doesn't sound like him for some reason. It's just really weird. I also thought Weiss's face when she like walks up and joins Ruby at the front, Weiss is pulling the grumpiest bitch face in that scene for some reason, and I'm like, are you okay, honey? Like, she's literally going I'm like, what's wrong with you? And then the next
she's got to deal with the freaking Atlas military again. She's not a happy camper.
She looks so like serious and so bitchy, and I'm like, Weiss, honey, tone it down a notch. But in the very next shot, in the wide shot, it's not there anymore. But then the next time it goes close up, it is, and I'm like, what is she doing with her face? just a couple of little things that I noticed that I was like, even when I was watching my reaction. Thing is, I notice a lot of things that I don't say anything about in my reactions. I don't know if you do that, Laurelei.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
I notice a lot of things that I don't say anything about because I don't want to talk over the characters, or I don't want to withdraw from the, like, immersion or the story. And I will always come on here and talk about them, but I will usually not mention them in my reactions. And also because the episode's usually going too quick for me to even get a thought out. Why is helping her friends return to her homeland with Father of the Year? Don't even go there. Don't remind me Jacques Schnee's about to be a thing again. I don't want to think about it. Yeah. Jean also has a line here where he talks about how, like, look at the mech. It's not designed for small enemies. It's probably designed for giant Grimm that come in from deeper waters. Totally not foreshadowing at all.
I know. When that line happened in the episode, I literally went, I'm right, a giant Grimm's coming.
Again, I didn't say anything, but I thought exactly the same thing. I was like, well, that's chapter 13. Definitely 110,000% foreshadowing there. So yeah, I feel like we can definitely expect a giant Grimm, some kind of sea Grimm happening probably in chapter 13, because they did say that chapter 13 is the biggest finale of RWBY ever, and something massive's going down in chapter 13, and it's got to have something to do with the Grimm.
It's gonna show up at the end of chapter 12.
Totally.
And then it's gonna be like, oh shit! Cut to black.
It's gonna be the fall of Beacon all over again. Yay! Nobody's ready.
And it's probably gonna have to be one of those situations where they all have to put aside their differences and work together to defeat the bigger bad.
Yeah.
So.
Or they take out the mech, and then this giant Grimm shows up, and they're like, well, shit. now we don't have a means of fighting this.
I'm still convinced what's going to happen is they're going to take out the mech's laser arm, and then, like, Cordovan's going to have to, like, one arm wrestle a sea beast.
Wouldn't that be amazing? That's just the visual of that is incredible. Because Cory, I know you were saying that they keep showing shots of, like, the people of Argus, like, panicking and screaming and freaking out, and they showed a shot in this episode as well, which I thought was a weird shot, actually. Was it this episode or last episode? This episode.
Yeah.
Where they showed a shot of just, like, Argus, and people were, like, screaming and turning around and, like, towards where all the commotion's happening. But before that, everybody was just calmly walking through the streets like nothing was going on, and they didn't just see a giant mech pop out of a big metal shoe. Like, guys?
Well, I think part of that is because the area around Argus is very hilly, and, like, the way they show the streets, it's very possible that a large quantity of Argus did not see what was going on, and were only alerted when the kind of earthquake happened when the mech hit the earth.
I just thought it was strange how, like, last chapter Cordovan made a big show of, like, popping out of the base and being like, I will remind you all why Atlas is better than you. And then the next time we see the people of Argus, they're just strolling down the street like nothing is going on. I was like, that looks really weird. San Fran parallels too, yeah. Pacific Meg. I loved Ren's line here when Maria's like, they can take my driver's license, but they would like them take this airship. And Ren's like, very reassuring. Like, Ren doesn't say much, but when he does speak, I'm like, he is a mood. He is everybody in the fandom right now. Like, literally.
He kind of has a bit of the Maria effect, where every scene he speaks in, he kind of steals it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because he
definitely.
hardly talks, really. I loved the shot of, like, after they're done coordinating behind the dust and all the dust, well, the dust settles. I hate that. I hate myself. Kill me. After all the dust settles. I love the shot of, like, the airship goes off to the right, Team Junior runs off to the left, and Ruby and Crow go up, and, like, Cordovan, like, you can see the way the camera moves, how Cordovan's like, crap, which one do I aim for? Which is exactly what they're going for. Really good looking shot. The only thing I didn't like about it was Ruby's cape effect when she goes up. It doesn't spin, and it looks funny to me. It's just like remains stationary and then like just vanishes, and I'm like, that looks a little bit odd, but I'll forgive you because you've had a lot of work to do in this chapter. So, but yeah, there are a few things like that I noticed. The decent people of Atlas with one hand.
I'd get rid of Ironwood.
Yeah, I was gonna
Klein.
say I wouldn't fucking
Klein.
put Ironwood in there and add Klein. Yes,
Klein is the best of all of them.
Yes, Klein is precious.
He's
Klein
too pure.
Yeah. Definitely not lumping in Ironwood with the decent people. I still don't trust him. And I feel like he's gonna do a lot of dumb shit before he's done.
I'm very scared to see him again.
I'm scared.
Next volume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just scared for going to Atlas in general, because we know so much about what it's like, but we've never actually been in it. So, we've never been in the thick of all the racism and the superiority complexes, and so, and the military, like, what's the word I want?
Regime.
Sure. So Ruby missile running in this scene was interesting. I mean, I feel like it's such a Ruby thing to do, like a RWBY thing to do, not a Ruby Rose thing to do, but at the same time, I'm like, so many things in this episode broke physics, so I'm just gonna ignore that and let it slide. But
well, that scene in particular, we don't see how Ruby's semblance works very often, but we do forget that she has super speed. And so her being able to run from one to another, it's like we're seeing what, like in the X-Men when they show Quicksilver, like moving through as everything else is slow around them. That's what I took from that scene, and that's why I was just 100% okay with it.
Definitely reminded me of Quicksilver as well. I got the same feeling about it, that like we are not seeing this in real time. Like this has definitely been slowed down for our benefit. There, and then the last shot where she like jumps off the last missile and does that weird turn, I was like, that again, another moment of I'm like, that animation looks really slow and awkward. But then she drops down and Weiss creates this ice slide on the ocean, and I'm like, okay, I'm back in volume 3 chapter 1, don't do this to me. I don't like, I'm getting flashbacks, I don't like it. Stop drawing parallels to volume 3 because it's scaring me, and it's scaring me because I'm like, is this sort of setting up for bad things happening in the final chapter, because there's been a few volumes since anything truly terrible has happened, so shit.
Yep.
I'm scared. I'm really scared. They've been drawing so many volume 3 parallels, and like, especially with the Pyrrha, I always call it the Pyrrha chapter. The Pyrrha chapter, like, finally giving Jean and Nora and Ren that closure from volume 3, because they've never had that closure before, and like wrapping that side of things up almost, and then they've drawn so many parallels for volume 3 in this volume, and I'm like, please do not do this to me. I can't handle another full of Beacon. Please don't.
And Argus is so cool. I don't want anything to happen to it.
Don't destroy Argus.
know.
It's so pretty. I like Argus.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm about to get to that, Nightwalker. Speed is the most overpowered ability in all of fiction. So, hard light dust was mentioned here when Cordovan uses her shields to block Nora's grenades. So, we haven't really seen hard light dust in the show before. The only time we've really seen it probably is the force field over the top of the arena, the Amity Arena.
Yeah.
I always feel weird calling it the Amity Arena because it's the mobile game now, but I'm like, no, that's what the arena was actually called. The cyan dust Weiss uses. No, the cyan dust she uses is ice dust. So, hard light dust seems to be something different altogether, and she kind of gave me the impression that it is manufactured. Like, hard light dust is something that Atlas have manufactured. Invented, yeah. They've, like, invented through the use of dust and technology, it seems like. I don't think hard light dust is like a crystal that you can pick out of the ground. Like, oh, this is hard light dust. No, I think there's something they've actually invented. Grim Eclipse has shields, yeah. And we see hard light dust use in Grim Eclipse as well with the robots, the not mechs, androids. They have shields, and it creates the same effect that this created. But I think this might be the first time we've actually seen it properly in the show. But yeah, the only other example I can think of is the force field around Amity Arena. And then also the force field that's protecting the audience from all of the fighting that's going on in the actual arena itself. But yeah, so that was interesting to hear her talk about hard light dust, because she says Atlas is the father of hard light dust. First of all, weird. Secondly, yeah, she definitely gave me the impression that it was something that they have invented. It wasn't something that they dug out of the ground. They've used probably a combination of dusts and their technology to create this new kind of dust subtype. Weiss against the Lieutenant. Oh, no.
Because it didn't have the same effect.
No,
like, I feel like it was more like wind dust or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was that she used there, but she has 6 kinds of dust in her rapier. She's got ice, gravity, fire, shoot, I forget what they all are now. I might have to look them up, but
wind. I don't think she's had lightning since, like...
No, she
volume
initially
or since
did, but
yeah,
I don't think she has since. And then in the white trailer as well, she had a green one. But dust has changed a lot since the white trailer. So the thing is, dust doesn't work the same way now that it did then, and also the same types of dust don't exist now that did then.
Yeah, Pishin, the thing she used in the Queen Lancer fight was definitely wind dust.
Yeah,
because it like blew him off to the side.
Yeah, Ruby talks about in video games the weak spot's usually on the back of the giant boss, and I'm like, and Weiss is like, Ruby, this isn't a game, and I'm like, Weiss, just like, I mean, like, she's just trying to, you know, I feel like we've had the dust combo before. Yeah, it's inconsistent. That's the problem.
Yeah. I feel like they didn't really solidify the rules of dust until like Volume 4.
Yeah, they really didn't. They were just trying to, you know, sort of figure out as they went. Yeah. So, but she's right. Like the weak spot is usually on the back of the giant thing. So, yeah. I mean, I love that Weiss like berates her, like, Ruby, this isn't a game, and she turns out to be right.
Yeah, you can't really get more video game than a giant robot in the ocean.
Right? Yeah, like Weiss, you see the situation you're in right now. This is not. This is a video game. Crow was finally making himself useful, which I was glad to see. He stopped being an angsty bitch for now, and he's actually doing something helpful, and also looking badass while he does it. So I'm all for that. There's been
as am I.
It's been a lack of Crow action this volume, just because he spent most of it feeling sorry for himself. So, video games are a foreign concept to Weiss. I mean, she lived with Ruby for like a year, so it can't be that foreign of a concept. She's, and like, even Ruby was playing video games in the first chapter on the train. And she was like, who wants to play video games? So I don't doubt that Weiss has probably partaken at some point. Weiss summons her Lancer in this fight, which was really cool to see, because I feel like everybody was expecting the Knight. So for them to do the Lancer instead was really interesting, and also it's a faster summon, as we've seen previously.
I know, I was gonna say, like, the entire time we've been doing the Boopcast, I'm always like, that's not practical for a fight, Weiss. It's not practical. You need to get better at that. And she's finally like, I feel like I'm like, yes, she's finally at a point where it's useful in a fight. She can summon it like that.
Yeah, it was very quick. The only other time we've seen her summon the Lancer was after she got back up from being injured. yeah, let's not talk about that any further. But
I mean, even then, like, it seemed like she sat there summoning it for a while.
Yeah, she was probably doing that for some time. But here she definitely, like, a few seconds and, oh, Lancer, hello. And I like that they were writing it too. I was like, I was always kind of confused about, like, the tangibility of her summons. But to see them actually writing it, I'm like, okay, it's a tangible, like, grim that,
It's because it looks so ghostly because
exactly,
it's white.
Yeah, it looks really ghostly.
Yeah.
So I always feel like it's like, you know, you could put your arm through it, but that's not the case. We saw Jean's Claymore again, which was really cool to see because we haven't seen that since Volume 4. So to like even for a brief second,
He used it in the fight against Cinder.
Did he?
Yeah, that was what
I
he
think
went
he did, yeah.
When he was like, "I'm gonna make you pay," and she was like, "Who are you again?" And he goes, "Huh," and he puts it in Claymore mode and charges her.
He does. That's right. Well, we haven't seen it since then, but I love seeing Jean's Claymore like version of his, even if it's just for a second as he slashes at the mech. It's really cool, and I remember when that reveal happened in Volume 4, thinking like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, Jean finally has a weapon that's more, because before that it was just like, oh, it's his grandfather's sword and shield, and like, oh, it's old school, haha, look at Jean with his old school weapons, and now he's like, bish where. It's really cool. I love to see him do that. Hi Miss Weenie, welcome to the podcast. What? I've written Ruby Waves in my notes. What does that mean?
Oh! Well, here's the thing. The next thing that happens is that when the mech crashes into the shore after they knock it over, is that it shows us that shot of the people of Argus panicking again. And the thing I noticed here, we get to see our second baby in Ruby. Because the lady at the front of the camera was holding another baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked exactly like Adrian.
He did, yeah, just blonde, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'll forgive that because it's just for a second, but I did notice. So I was like, hello, blonde Adrian. Yeah, but you know, the children are few and far between in Ruby. We didn't even ever see a child until Volume 3, Chapter 7. There were no children in Ruby before that chapter, and that was an illusion. It wasn't even a real child. So, like, it was Emerald's illusion to Amber in Chapter 7. So, we didn't see a real child until Volume 5. So, and that was when Crow was going around looking for the huntsman, and we saw that little girl. That was the first actual child we saw. No! The first actual child was Ren. And then Nora.
Yeah.
And then that
Ren.
little girl. Well, all the other children in that sort of flashback bit as well. But outside of main characters.
The kids on the boat with Blake at the start of Volume 4.
That's true, yeah. There were kids on the boat.
I was going to say there had to have been kids in Volume 4 somewhere.
Yeah, there were.
Outside of Ren and Nora.
Coming to think of it, there were a lot of children in Volume 4, actually. So there were the two kids on the boat, and then there was Ren and Nora, and those three other little boys. And then the little girl in Volume 5, and Adrian, and that's been it, I think, so far as children have gone. There may have been Adrian. There may have been in background shots and things that we may have missed, but those are the main ones that I can think of.
I feel like we've definitely seen like Faunus babies at some point too.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably on Menagerie.
Probably, yeah, probably in the background, I would say. But yeah, Ruby waving like to Cordovan when she like drops in front of the winches. She's like, "Hi!" I'm like, again,
it's so very Ruby.
It's so Ruby. It's such a Ruby thing to do. I freaking love her. I love her this volume. She's been great. Dropping onto the Lancer. Okay, I'm gonna talk about shippers here a little bit. Because I know the White Rose shippers have been losing their minds over this chapter, and I think that they're reading into it too much, which shippers usually do.
Yeah.
I personally don't see White Rose ever really happening, because I feel like Weiss and Ruby are not compatible in that way, but they're compatible as partners because they complement each other. Because they are so different.
Yeah, I think they have, like, a really sisterly relationship.
They do, yeah.
Like, that kind of, like, I would do anything for you, but I also hate your guts sometimes.
Yeah.
That sort of relationship. Like,
Yeah.
The way they interact, it's very much how me and my sister have always interacted.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I feel
plus
like
always
Weiss
that
is
line from Volume 1 always kind of, when I think of White Rose, I think of the line where Weiss says, "I always wanted bunk beds as a kid," and like it just seems like that was like a really kind of like sisterly exchange there.
They definitely feel like Ruby is Weiss's annoying little sister that she hates and loves so much at the same time.
Definitely.
And definitely their relationship is very different now than it was, say, back in Volume 1, where Weiss was, like, kind of mean to her all the time, like, calling her, like, "No, you dunce," like, all the time, and, like, just so mean to her, but they also bounce off of each other really well. But now their relationship is very different, where Weiss had a year apart from her team, and I feel like for her it was a case of she didn't realize what she had until it was taken away, and then the very second she got back with her team, she is just relishing this time with them and just loving being back with her team and with Ruby, her partner as well. And like, I feel like Weiss has changed so much. And like even in the first chapter of Volume 6, when they did that shot where Ruby and Weiss like pop into frame behind Yang, I'm like, Weiss is like, she has picked up on so much of Ruby's like mannerisms and stuff like that, and she seems like really she's just so happy to be back with her team, I think, and she is just sort of like, whereas before she might have resisted sort of becoming a bit more like Ruby, now she just kind of lets it happen. She doesn't really care because she's just so grateful to be back with her team. But with Ruby falling onto the Lancer here, I noticed that in the next shot where Weiss goes, "What if I hadn't caught you?" They're actually, like, she's holding Ruby's hand. And then in the next shot, Ruby pulls away and says, "I knew you would." And then as soon as Weiss turns around, she's resting bitch face, and then Ruby's like, "Oh," like she's like, "Oh my god, she actually caught me." But yeah, it was just a cute moment. I love their relationship. It's, they're just adorable. But their relationship does feel definitely more sisterly. I don't.
Plus, also that moment I feel like was more drawing parallels to episode 1 of this volume, where Weiss slipped and Ruby caught her.
Yeah, exactly.
It was we've got each other's backs.
And I don't want to say that their relationship is like, "Oh, look at these gals being pals," because that's not how I see them. I see them as more like a sisterly relationship. Like, they're definitely more like sisters than friends at this point. But yeah. The Crow and Ren bit. Okay, this was interesting because Ren's like doing his thing, rock climbing down the mech and being like, "Oh, look what I found, convenient shield generator."
Well, the thing somebody pointed out to me with the Ruby Rewind was that you can see Ren hears it going. That's why he goes, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Because he hears like, "Oh, what's that sound?" It's very loud there.
Yeah, I did notice that. And I could hear it going when I was watching the episode. He definitely hears it and he's like, "Ooh, what's this?" And then falling off the mech, and I was like, the last person I was expecting to catch you is Crow, but I'm so glad that he did, because this interaction was something that no one in the fandom knew they needed until it happened. And like, to see Crow and Ren directly interacting was so strange, but like, it was so good. I was like, my boys. Like,
yeah.
It was also animated really well, like when Ren falls and Crow catches him and Ren's like dangling. Crow's like, "Hey, gotcha, hey, what'd you find?" And then pulling him up. It was animated really well. It looked really good. I loved Ren's little smile at Crow as well. And then, like, Ren doesn't say anything in this whole scene. Crow does all the talking, but Ren's just like, just like, "Look, shield generator." And they're like, "Okay then, let's destroy it." I also have seen a really funny meme making the rounds of this particular moment, where I've seen Ren is Bumblebee and Crow is the rest of the fandom, and the shield generator is homophobia. It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. And then when they fire, I think Ren's weapon is Kruby and Crow's weapon is something else. I can't remember what it is now. I saw it on Twitter. It was hilarious. Maybe laughed so hard. But I was like, it's so true. That was like really like a nice scene in there of Crow and Ren interacting. Because I feel like we're getting a lot this volume of characters directly interacting that may not have done so before. And they like it feels like they're really trying to include that sort of stuff. Like Blake was interacting with Ruby, and like
Blake hasn't talked to Ruby since like volume 1.
Blake and Ruby never talk to each other. Like not directly. They have group conversations that they're both involved in, but they don't speak to one another. So, but another example I can think of is chapter 7, when they finally arrive in August. I can't remember what's in what chapter. I was like, the Maria chapter, which one is it?
I always think of like chapter 7 is just the Maria bit in my mind, and I always forget like no, there was like 10 more minutes after that.
Yeah, there was like a whole reunion thing going on, and like chapter 7, everybody hugging different people. So like Blake goes up to Jean and like cuddles up to him like a cat, and Weiss is talking to Jean, and Ren and Yang hug, and like you hear Blake talking to Ren and Weiss talking to Ren in the background. And then Ruby and Jean hugging. I was like, I love seeing all these different characters that we never see interact with one another or even look at each other, really. Actually interacting. And Blake, like, doing a little, like, cat mosey up to Jean is, like, the cutest thing ever. And I fucking love that. She is just such a cat through and through. And another example was actually in this chapter where after everybody falls onto the cliff, Ren actually has his hand on Weiss's back, which I found that interesting as well. So, like, we're seeing all these characters interact that we never get to see them, like, interact with one another, and I love that they're doing that this volume. It's really, like, creating a really nice team dynamic of, like, everybody's a team. It's not Team Junior and Team Ruby, and then Crow and Oscar and Maria are there. They're definitely a group dynamic, yeah. So it's creating nice, these nice dynamics between all these people. It's about time characters interacted with other characters. I know, right? Nora's line, "You get back here with my man!" I freaking love her. She's so great. And, like, again, the little Renora things. We live for these things because there's not enough, like, direct Renora in the show. Like, since they, like, canonized it, I guess, in Volume 4, we've had nothing since then. Like, they haven't even really spoken to each other. And, like,
they have little bits here and there.
Tiny little
I've
bits,
noticed they've been, like, a little more touchy-feely, and then, like, in the intro to this volume, they're, like, straight up cuddling in the train station, so, like, there's little bits, but this was just...
There's tiny little bits in the background that they're, like, this is here, this is still a thing, we just don't have time to address it. And I'm like, fair enough, there's a lot going on. But before Volume 7 is up, I'm gonna need more Renora, please, thank you. Like, they haven't even kissed yet. Come on, it's been 2 volumes, for fuck's sake. Mm-hmm. Let's get some action going on here. Everybody's getting impatient. We need more Renora. But yeah, just her line there, like, I'm like, yes, I am living for this. And it's such a Nora thing to say. Stick it to those who say kisses equal death. Oh my god, yeah. Well,
I mean, seriously, Ruby needs to break that thing now. Where it's like, ooh, we set up a really bad precedent. So everyone start kissing.
The only romantic kiss in the entire show, and she dies 10 minutes later. Like, not even 10 minutes later.
Yep.
Like, they need to break that cycle immediately by giving us some sweet Renora action. I don't mean... Okay, let's moving on. Ruby is still PG, folks. Ruby hanging onto Weiss when they're on the Lancer, and, like, Ruby's got her arms around Weiss hanging on, and Weiss is like, jump on! To the boys. That was really cute. I liked that. Okay, this bit here. So, Nora's, like, firing at the mech, and she's being Nora, and I did notice, actually, on, like, the 3rd or 4th viewing that she actually ran out of ammo. That's why she's just standing there. Like, she looks at she looks at, I nearly called it Mjolnir. She looks at Magenhild. I always almost call it Mjolnir. Every time. She's not Thor.
I mean, she is
She
Thor,
kind of
but...
is. She's basically Thor. Either it jammed or she's run out of ammo, because she looks at it and, like, shakes it a little bit, like, ugh, why is it not working? And Jean, the ever-observant man that he is, notices, and he's immediately like, I need to go help Nora out because she's in trouble. So this bit here, Jean using his semblance to basically save Nora's life, and like you only see it for a brief second, but he grabs her and uses his aura to amplify hers, and then when they get knocked back, both of their auras break. And John is wrecked after that happens. He can't even get up, whereas Nora looks relatively okay. But he's destroyed. Like, he would have felt all of that, basically. Most of it, anyway.
And that's, like, a testament to, like, how bad that blow was, because they've already established that Jean has a ton of aura, but that just wiped him out.
His aura is very strong. I'm certain that it would have killed her if he hadn't done that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Definitely.
such an understated moment, but it's like, if Jean hadn't done that, Nora would have died.
She'd be
like
dead.
they kind of move past it so quickly because everything is like suddenly everybody's in danger, but
Ren definitely noticed that because he like yelled no when he saw it, and like that was another moment where I was just like, my heart.
I know, my heart. And like that was the only moment, like even throughout all the Adam versus Blake versus Yang stuff, I was like, the whole time I was like, they're fine. They're gonna be fine. Everything's fine over there. Like, I never felt like they were ever in immediate danger. This was the only moment in the entire episode that legitimately gave me a heart attack, when their auras went down. I was like, oh my god, like, it actually freaked me out, and I was like, oh shit. And like, I'm just like, every time anyone's aura goes down, I panic, because I'm like, oh fuck. I know what happened last time this happened, so like, yeah, fucking god, they're traumatizing us one piece at a time. Like, I'm traumatized by Weiss's aura going down now, so I'm like, every time somebody's aura goes down, I'm like, somebody's gonna die!
Yep.
The Earth dust is dangerous in hindsight, yeah, it is. Sounds like I had a Halo moment, I don't know what that means, but, I assume you're referring to the game Halo, but, Jean, I want to talk about Jean here, because this is not the first time Jean has pulled a crazy kamikaze move to save somebody else. He seems to do it a lot, and he needs to stop. Like, I get that he has the ability to do that now because of his semblance. He's unlocked his semblance, and he seems very adept already at using it and utilizing it to do different things. The thing is, his semblance is very versatile. Because the definition is that he can amplify other people's aura with his own. And what that means is that not only can he... So, like, aura has a natural ability to heal wounds, but it's also a natural shield, and, like, aura is capable of doing a lot of things. And aura is directly linked to semblance as well, so we saw him amplifying Ren's semblance. We know that he can use it to not... He doesn't heal people. He amplifies their aura, and their aura heals them. But he also was able here to amplify Nora's natural shield, and his own. So it's like, it's extremely versatile semblance that he has, and he seems like very adept already at using it. I think it has a lot to do with, like, he just has a very strong desire to protect those around him, especially Nora and Ren, and Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, but more immediately Nora and Ren. I know the situation was definitely justified in it, but yeah, it's something I've noticed too. Yeah, ever since the end of Volume 3, he's definitely gotten not suicidal, but he definitely has become more of a kamikaze, sort of, like, he will throw himself in front of danger to protect somebody else, and that's a very dangerous mentality to have.
And that's what I feel like Chapter 9 dealt with, was that they were like, you're trying to kill yourself, Jean. Stop it.
And weirdly enough, I kind of see a parallel between Jean and Yang in that way, because for the first 3 volumes, Yang like heavily relied on her semblance and just threw herself in at every opportunity until, it really destroyed her. And I think that they could be possibly building up something like that with Jean too. Like, he's doing a good thing, he's coming from a good place, but if he isn't careful with it, things could go bad very quickly.
Yeah, if he's not careful with, like, because he has to remember,
because he has to give his aura to, he loses his own aura to give it to somebody else.
He's essentially giving his life force away to protect other people. Very, very dangerous. He's giving away his natural shield and what gives him the ability to heal himself, and very, very dangerous power to have, especially in the hands of somebody like Jean, who is just hell-bent on protecting everybody. But they're going to be okay. I'm not too concerned about them right now. So the Lancer got destroyed here, and I don't know why I found this so funny. I feel like such a bad person for finding it so funny. But Ruby's semblance falling just short of the cliff and her being like, oh my god, and just like falling. I almost laughed in my reaction. I was like, that looks really funny. And of course, obviously, like, I was like, she's gonna be fine. She's not gonna fall in the water and drown. It's fine. But it just looked hilarious to me. That she fell just short of the cliff. I'm not sure if she did that by accident or if her semblance just sort of ran out. But like,
yeah, well, that is something I noticed about her throughout this fight. Is she was using her semblance like crazy,
a lot, yeah.
So it's like it could just be that, like, especially after that hit, like, in a way, like, her aura ran out, so she can't like use her semblance anymore.
Yeah, I think that they would fully show us if her aura broke.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be leading to that if semblance is, But another thing is, like, she could have just lost concentration because I was very much a moment of panic.
She could have misjudged it completely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like it's probably pretty likely she just misjudged it and just like, but it just looks hilarious to me. I was like, oh, Ruby, honey. Like, another thing I wanted to mention was that the effort work from the voice actors in this chapter was phenomenal. Everybody's effort work was amazing. Like, when they all land on the cliff there, and like Ruby's effort work, and effort work is horrible. I hate doing effort work in voice acting. It's the worst. It's so terrible. It's the most awkward thing ever, especially when you have a director.
Yeah.
When you have a director sitting there being like, okay, you need to make this noise now, and it's like, I feel the most awkward right now. It's horrible. I hate doing effort work, and it's the worst thing ever. So props to all of the voice actors for their effort work, because it's been incredible, especially in this chapter, but this whole volume as well. So Maria tries to cause a distraction to stop Cordovan from obliterating Ruby. But, like, the little missile pod thing opens up, and we see, like, a dozen missiles in there. Why the fuck did she only fire one? Fire them all! Fire all the missiles! For goodness sake, Maria! Why are you firing one piddly little missile that she can apparently stop with her big metal hand? That was another shot that looked really weird.
That's the shot I've seen the most people talking about with this episode, is they were like, I was so confused as to what happened there.
So
I didn't understand.
In my reaction, I was like, why am I suddenly getting a close-up on the mech here? Oh, it was oh, I see. And it took a little bit for me to go, oh, that's what happened. But it was just animated really strangely, where, like, it's literally 2 frames and the hand is there. I'm like, you need to add at least, like, 8 more. Like, that was too fast. Maybe she had one left. Nope, there was definitely a dozen missiles in there. So I'm like, Maria, you should have fired all of those. Like, you really should have.
She has a plan.
Well, I mean, you think she has a plan.
She has a plan.
You're adamant that the airship didn't just go down. I think she's going to save it somehow. I don't think she necessarily planned for that, but I think she's going to manage to save it. Because I don't see how else they're getting to Atlas. Yeah, so that was basically it for the group fight. Is there anything else anyone else wanted to touch on in this particular section of the chapter?
No.
I think we covered it
Pretty
pretty.
much covers it, yeah.
Pretty good.
Let's get on to the good bit. So, Blake versus Adam, Yang versus Adam, incredible. I just want to say incredible work from the crewbie on this entire sequence, especially the Yang versus Adam. I'll talk a bit about that when we get to it, but holy crap, is this animated so well. It looks so good. It's choreographed so well. The score, the sound design, the visuals, oh my gosh, everything absolutely spot on. Fucking loved it. Amazing. I don't have enough words to describe how good this was. In the previous chapter for the Boopcast, I was like, I hope we get to see Blake fight two-handed finally. And we did. She's fighting two-handed finally. Thank God they finally figured it out.
I remember last time, Pishin, you said that, you want to see Blake do a wield, and I remember Pishin in the chat saying, I say nothing.
It was in the preview, that's why.
And it was in the preview.
It was the preview. So yeah, I kind of figured that when he said that, I was like, well, now I know too much. But I was expecting it, more than hoping for it. I was expecting it, and they pulled through. They delivered. I was like, finally, Blake, in this sequence, she is fighting like Blake again. She looks like Blake, and she feels like Blake, and that's been missing since Volume 2 because they have not been able to figure her out. Especially in Volume 3, I feel like is when she was at her weakest point. She was not good in Volume 3. Volume 4, still not good. Volume 5, improving, but still not good. And here she finally was fighting like Blake again, and she's gotten her old style back. Not necessarily completely, but they have definitely figured out how to do her style in their own way.
Then they also got the gun transformation animation down again.
Yes.
So it doesn't just kind of teleport into the other form. Is like they showed it properly doing its folding animation.
So good, and I'm glad we got to see that one more time before they ripped Gamble Shroud. I know, sadness. But the thing is, we knew that Blake was supposed to get a weapon upgrade in Volume 3 that was written out for time constraints. So I've sort of not necessarily expected, but it's been in the back of my mind thinking about like, oh, Blake was supposed to get this weapon upgrade. I wonder when that's happening. Obviously it's going to happen next volume because now she doesn't have a weapon. So that's a bit awkward. But I'm excited to see what the next evolution in Blake's weapon is going to be.
I had a theory that you didn't really enjoy, and I completely understand because I'm like, I hate this theory. My thought was that maybe she takes the blade from Adam's weapon and uses that to like reforge hers.
Look at Lorelei's face.
Like, I also am like,
everything having to do with Adam just needs to go in the garbage and needs to be set on fire.
Get rid of it and never speak of it again.
I don't want her to do that, but I'm like, I could see it being the like most convenient option. Is that like she's we just killed this guy. We've got this spare sword laying around.
I mean, to be fair, he only cut Gamble Shroud in half. It could be reforged, but this is a good opportunity for her to get a new evolution in her weapon. So
she'll fix it with flex tape.
I sawed this sword in half. That's a lot of damage. Oh my god, wait.
That's a lot of damage.
I have an SFX for that.
Oh, you do have...
And I'm turning them off. I forgot. We did see her stealth it in her weapon. Yeah, we did. But I feel like Blake is not going to want his weapon. If it does get left behind when Adam dies, mark my words, he's going to die. Chapter 12, he's dead. Calling it. I'm still calling it. But I feel like if his weapon gets left behind, it would be super poetic if she just, like, tosses it into the ocean. Which I really want her to just do that. Be like, bye, Felicia. I'm just like... I am just tossing away what's left of you and your memory. Yeah, that's getting clipped. Cheers. But yeah, seeing her fight two-handed here was so exciting. Her choreography was so awesome. get all of this flying through the trees. Major Spider-Man vibes. Looked really beautiful with the snow setting, and losing her coat was unexpected, but not unwelcome. She must be freezing though. Poor Blake. It's like 30 degrees out there, so
there's snow everywhere.
There's snow everywhere. It looks very cold. So she must be freezing her tits off right now, but that's fine. She's probably colder than Weiss, which is saying something. She's got too much skin out. She needs a coat. Somebody get this woman a coat quickly. But the camera work in this section of the chapter as well was phenomenal. Awesome camera work. The way it follows the characters and follows the weapons and follows the action. The Gamble Shroud transformation, really awesome to see that again before they took Gamble Shroud away from us forever. Rip Gamble Shroud. The sound design. Oh my god, the sound design in this chapter. Absolutely phenomenal work. This is like the first time I felt the sound design has been close to like a Volume 2 standard, because the sound design of Volume 2 was really good in the fight scenes. Monty always held a very high standard of you guys. Monty always held a very high standard to the sound design, and like there was a behind the scenes of Volume 2 where he talked about like the way he designs the sound, and he used Yang's gauntlet as an example of like how many different sounds there are when she actually does one punch, and he talked about the sound the sound the director of sound at the time, and he was like, he hates me because Monty's just so like he knew what he wanted. So but I feel like this is the closest they've been to that since then, and the sound design was fucking amazing. One shot in particular that I keep going back to just to listen to the sound design and all the intricacies of it is after her coat falls off and she takes pot shots at Adam. The next shot of him, he deflects the first one, the next two hit him, and then he deflects 3 more. But the like his grunting effort sounds and the sound of the shots hitting his aura and also his weapon, the ringing out of his weapon, I'm like, the sound design in this shot is fucking gorgeous. And I'm like, I keep going back to listen to it to try and pick up all of the different intricacies of it. I'm a sucker for sound design and score. It's like my favorite thing about RWBY is just how incredible it is. And the score here was amazing. The From Shadows and the Lionhearted, is that what it's called?
Something along that line.
Yeah,
Lionized.
Lionhearted. Lionized. So there was, thank you. Lionized and From Shadows mixed in together, which created this really like kind of almost weird sounding, intense, like confrontational sort of music. Amazing score work in this chapter. I need to go and talk to Alex about this because it's been incredible. I haven't done that yet. Why? But Blake is fighting really smart in here. She is being very evasive and making sure she gets away from him in order to confront him. More like head on, she's trying to wear him out by sort of evading him, and Blake's style is very evasive. That's the way she's always been, because she has that cat-like quality about her where she can sort of leap around, and her semblance allows her to freely like evade attacks and jump around a lot and be a bit unpredictable. She's fighting really smart, but Adam is still better than her. He's still a lot better than her. So naturally she does lose. And
the thing that I find so scary about that is like watching the first half of the fight and the second half of the fight, you realize like he was kicking her ass in the first half of the fight and he was holding back.
Yeah, he was definitely holding back. Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. He's definitely holding back when he's fighting Blake because he wants to toy with her and he wants to taunt her and to sort of he's just playing with her is what he's doing. So, and the fact that he was holding back when we see him in the Yang portion of the fight is really terrifying, because I feel like they took away a lot of his power in Volume 5 and made him Like, because from Volume 3, they built him up to be this big, scary, really formidable force. And then in Volume 5, Blake, like, bitch slaps him to the ground. And I was like, really? This guy's scary. But at that moment in time, he was severely outnumbered. So, of course, he ran. But now we get to see more of, like, this guy is scary powerful. Like, he is terrifying, the amount of power that he has. And he is just miles better than Blake. He's way better than her. He's better than Yang as well, which is scary. But I'll talk about that in a second. He had a line here that he said, "I wouldn't have to be doing this if you just behave." Oh, I hate that line. I hate it. It skeeves me so bad. Everything he says to Blake, I'm like, you are so skeevy. I hate you. Get out of my life. Like, oh, I hate it so much. It makes my skin crawl. Or blood. Yeah.
He's definitely the abusive ex-boyfriend that, like, most girls have dealt with.
Yeah.
And, like, even later in that scene, when he starts yelling at Blake and saying, like, you're selfish, you're a coward, and, like, you realize that he's doing what a lot of emotionally abusive people do, and he's projecting. He's putting his own qualities onto her, blaming her for them. But that's really what Adam is inside. He's the one... He's selfish. He wants Blake. He is afraid of losing her. All of that.
And he is a coward. He does run when the odds are not in his favor. And, like, you're absolutely right. He's projecting onto her like crazy. And I love that she tells him, you're delusional. I love that she says that to him. Because that's her going, it doesn't matter what you say. I know what I am and I know what you are. And what you are is delusional. And you are selfish and you're a coward and you're insane. And he's insane. There's no two ways about it. He's a fucking crazy person. And definitely incredibly emotionally abusive, physically abusive as well. And, like, even back in the Adam character short, which I went back and rewatched recently, that scene between him and Blake there, I'm like, he's manipulating the crap out of her through that entire scene, and that's all their relationship was him manipulating her. And it took her running away from him to see that. That made me glad I've never had a girlfriend. I certainly don't need to be as warped as Adam. I don't think it was Blake that made Adam that way. No, it wasn't Blake that made Adam that way. Adam is just that way. Not everybody who has a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a significant other in general turns into an abusive psychopath. That is...
It's because he was an abusive psychopath that Blake just became the object of his obsession.
Yeah, exactly. He's obsessed with her, and it's extremely unhealthy obsession, and that is nothing to do with Blake. That's all him, and it's in his character to be like that. And there are people like this in the world that exist. And I feel like most people have dealt with someone like that in some form or another. Not just women, but most people. Yeah. I mean, something I noticed in this fight was that right before Adam knocks Blake down, he grabs his weapon, which is in her sheath at the time, and he flings her sheath off of the, like, cliff that they're on to the right. But then later on in the scene, she's over here and picks it up from the ground. I'm like, that thing went in the ocean like 5 seconds ago. Why are you picking it up from the ground now? It should not be there. It should not exist. It got flung out of frame completely. Off into the ocean. So I don't know. Did they just overlook that, or is it just a matter of convenience, is what I'm wondering, because otherwise she wouldn't have had a weapon for the rest of the fight, which we're going to see in chapter 12. And he doesn't even know how bad he's been, or how he just blames himself. Yeah, and that's what people that are like that are like. They literally cannot see themselves for what they really are. And they project everything they are onto other people, and they don't even realize it. That's the thing.
Yeah, like even as they've talked about throughout the whole thing, is like, he talks about how like she came into his life and ruined it, but then like he's stalking her to get her back into his life, and he's never gonna let her go again, and like he has all these contradictory feelings, and it's just like, and it's because Blake has to be responsible for everything.
Yeah.
And none of it is his fault, so Blake is responsible for all of these different things, even though they're contradictory.
Yeah, and that's exactly what people that are like that, that's what they believe and that's how they think. So yeah, it's he's a nut job. But yeah, her sheath like going off into the ocean and then teleporting back into the scene, I was like, weird, but okay. And I didn't actually notice it the first time either. I noticed it the second time. So we talked last week about Blake's scar, and I was like, I've literally never seen it. I'd literally never saw it until this moment.
I only ever seen like maybe this much of it, like just tiny little bit.
I never once ever noticed it. I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. I don't see a scar. I don't know what the heck you guys are on about. Finally, I can see it. It's there. I'm like, okay, I see it now. The thing is though, I literally never saw it. Ever. And I was like, how are people seeing this? I even went to the screenshots on like Tumblr and stuff like that. I was like, I don't see it. What are you guys seeing? But yeah, now
I'm on the same wavelength. Like I thought they had just like completely brushed off the fact that he straight up stabbed her in Volume 3.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we had this moment now.
Yeah, definitely. Again, drawing parallels and making it feel very real. No more parallels to Volume 3. Exactly. They're still drawing parallels. Yeah, it was nice to have it, like, to properly see it here. And to be like, it's kind of almost them going, yes, she did get stabbed. Yes, that was a tangible wound that has left a scar. Because she didn't actually seem that bothered by it in Volume 3. She got up and carried Yang away like it was nothing, and there was no blood or anything. So, it was just a strange handling of that at the time.
Yeah, but then you see, like, in the first shot of the next episode, that she's, like, curled into a ball, clutching her side.
With bandages around her middle, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it was strangely handled at the time, so it's good to see them sort of almost fixing it now by doing this. So, I mean, the scar has been there the whole time. I just haven't been able to see it until now. But yeah, rip Gamble Shroud. When Adam takes off, I swear that is Blake's ribbon that he's wearing on his head. But when he takes it off, Blake isn't surprised. She's definitely seen him without his mask before, which doesn't surprise me, because if they were in some kind of... you guys in the chat. Speaking of scars, yes, she has definitely seen this before, and it doesn't surprise me because they were very close and in some form of a relationship. And so of course she would have seen it before. But she immediately looks so guilty when she sees it, and I hate that. I'm like, Blake, don't you dare feel guilty for a thing to do with this man. Regardless of how much he's been put through, of how much he's been abused by humans, I don't feel sorry for him at all because of the kind of person that he is.
I do, but big but. It does not excuse his actions at all. Like, he is a horrible monster. I understand why he maybe feels some of the way that he feels, but he is, like, him and Ilya are interesting parallels because they basically have very similar experiences, but the problem is he just completely dove into psychopathy, and she didn't.
He completely dove off the deep end, whereas Ilya was still able to come back around. And I'm with you where I understand him now. And, like, a lot of people were saying about this chapter, like, when they did this reveal, they were like, ugh, they've made Adam into such a yandere just for plot's sake. I'm like, A, he was always a yandere, so get that thought out of your head. And B, I'm like, so many people are like, oh, his character makes no sense now. And I was like, his character makes more sense after this reveal than he ever has. His character has never made sense. He was just the token bad guy who had beef with people just cause, but now he makes sense. Now I'm like, I can see what you've been through and why you are the way you are. And I know, I understand now the extent of your abuse, and that's terrible and horrific. But also, you're a piece of shit, and it doesn't excuse anything that you've done whatsoever.
And I always felt like that was what was happening there. Is I was like, the reason he hides his face and everything is because like he was attacked because he was a faunus, and like maybe somebody like threw acid on his face or something, like, and he's hiding disfigurement back there, and that's kind of what we got.
Yeah, kind of. The SDC Schnee Dust Company brand, though, is very, very telling. We don't know what it's telling us, but we know that it's telling.
Also, who saw SDC the first time they looked at it? Because I was like, 602.
Not me.
Okay.
I saw SOO. I was like, what's that, Sue?
Me too. I was like, what?
I didn't notice it until somebody, I don't remember who it was, might have been you, Cory, went, oh, it's SDC. And I was like, oh shit, it is SDC. I think it was maybe when we were watching the episode together that you went, oh, it's SDC. And I was like, oh, fuck, it is. But, yeah, I understand why you look at the world the way you do, but I do not support your actions. Exactly. It doesn't matter how much abuse, how much somebody has been through at the hands of other people. It never excuses you for being a garbage piece of shit human being. Ever.
And like earlier in the chat, I see this as an abused becomes the abuser type scenario. Like that's the thing. Like people who've been abused go either one of two ways. They either perpetuate the abuse or they learn from it and they make sure it never happens again.
Yeah. And
he went the bad way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he went the other way. There's two.
He sees it as humans hurt me, so now I need to hurt humans.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's through a fault of him and his own character. Because he chose to do that. He didn't have to be that way. And there are other people who have suffered abuse who don't go that way. So it's completely through a fault of him and his character. And it excuses nothing. We all understand why he is the way he is now, but it excuses nothing. He doesn't get a free pass for being a piece of shit just because he was treated like one. And he doesn't get a free pass for abusing others because he was abused.
I licked it. It's mine.
Yeah. And
Angry Owl, thank you for ranking up to Lieutenant. Cheers for the sub. Appreciate that. Hey, the sub alert.
But I was going to comment.
Just came online, so we need to hurry up.
And we still have a half hour.
The corner of Remnant is going to start in half an hour, so.
But I just wanted to say, Ninja said that Adam's a bit too extreme for my suspension of disbelief. Would have been better if his only aim was to attack the ones responsible rather than all of humanity.
You are correct.
But he like was raised or in some way, like he is in some way associated with Atlas in this way. With the Schnee Dust Company there. And, like, from everything we know about Atlas is, like, they are a horribly racist place. They're terribly just bad.
Yeah.
Not good at the whole human rights thing and just...
Yeah. Like this is an allegory that, like... Yeah, this is an allegory that, like, kind of surpasses, like... our racism in our world because they are two completely different species. So, and if he'd seen that much abuse from so many different people, I think it's pretty fair that he would target all of humanity, especially with his psychopathy. Yeah. That's just where his brain is going to go and where it very clearly went.
The thing is, people who are like this, people who are this volatile, who are this damaged, who are this, who are like this, they don't think about things logically like that. They just want to attack and blame everything and everyone around them that isn't themselves.
He's just lashing out.
He's just lashing out at everything and everyone. Anyone that hurts him is now the object of, like, everything bad that's ever happened to me is now also your fault. And if you've dealt with somebody who's like this, then you understand that Adam's character, not far-fetched at all. That's exactly what people like this are like. And it's very hard to understand that if you have never dealt with somebody that's like that. But I had a point that I was going to... Yeah, it's difficult for you to relate. That's the problem. Yeah, so I had a train of thought. It's gone completely. I was going to go on a different tangent and now I forgot what it was. I feel like with everything we know about Ilya's parents working in the dust mines in Atlas, I feel like Adam may have come from a similar situation. Because him having that SDC brand on his face, he had to have defied somebody in Atlas, and they did that to him to put him back in his place, is what that says to me. And he also says, people hurt me long before we met all sorts of people in all sorts of ways. So it's not just that one isolated incident. This has been a recurring theme in his life.
Plus, like, the little we know about Adam is he, in a weird way, is, like, kind of justice-focused. So even before he had all this terrible things that, like, kind of warped his sense of justice, like, he probably would have, in that environment, he would have, like, fought against, you know, the abuse and everything, and that was, like, and because he fought against the abuse, he was abused more, and it just got to a point where, you know, eventually he broke.
And Ninja, I feel like you're lucky to be somebody who can't relate to this and who, like, has not experienced discrimination at this level of extremity. But once, like, take it from people who know and understand this, this is very real. There are people like Adam that exist in the world, and I've personally dealt with people like him. And, like, once you realize how real he is, he becomes a lot more terrifying. And I see people that I've known in Adam, which is why he's so scary to me. And why he is, not, like, now that I know this about him, I'm like, I completely, like, all of the years of complaints I've had about Adam's character being shit and making no sense, I'm like, I completely understand him now. I get why he is him, but it still doesn't excuse him. So, he's still a piece of shit, and I still want him to die in chapter 12, which he's going to. So, and it's going to be satisfying. But anyway, moving on from that, because we still have a little bit to get through.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes?
Is it very weird for you guys that, like, he has blue eyes?
Oh, blue eyes!
Like,
I even wrote it down.
It startled the crap out of me.
I know! I was like...
I never expected that for some reason.
I literally, like, I pulled a face at it, I think, because I was like, okay, interesting choice. Bright turquoise eyes, sure. Not what I was expecting at all.
It does kind of work, Pishin. I agree, but it was weird.
I still don't like them. It has not grown on me at all. I'm like, it looks out of place. I was like, even like a dark green or red eyes or something like that would have made more sense to me. I'm like, why bright turquoise blue? It seems to clash with everything else on him. It's really weird. It was just a bizarre choice, yeah. Really startling. But I feel like that may have been deliberate to choose such a strange color that nobody was expecting to, like, for the sake of us going, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
I also think it might have to do with something else, but I'll mention it when we talk about stuff later.
No, I was
Pishin
not
asked,
expecting silver.
was anybody expecting silver eyes? Because I didn't for a
No.
second.
No.
Like, the thought had passed through my head in the past, but, like, no.
I love
No.
how...
I agree with you, Nightwalker. Yeah. Like, he has very pretty blue eyes, and that makes me hate him more.
I know, yeah.
Because I'm like...
His eyes are beautiful. But, well, his eye is beautiful.
His eye is beautiful.
And he would have been a very attractive young man before that happened, and I hate that. Because I don't want to think of him in any positive way whatsoever, because he's a turd. Hey, Arnold! Welcome to the Boopcast. We're talking about Adam.
Other things.
Okay, there were a lot of theories going around about why Adam was hiding under the mask, and the two prevalent ones were he's blind and he has silver eyes. Neither of them are correct. Oh, there was also some people were thinking that he had some kind of something behind there that was mutilated. But I love how most of the fandom, I feel like, was like, he's got silver eyes, he's hiding silver eyes behind there. And then all of the reactor community were like, no. We were all like, that's not silver eyes. But I feel like we spend a lot more time watching the show and paying a lot of attention to the show that most of the people who watch it might not. So I feel like that's why we kind of go against most of the fan theories some of the time, because we're like, no, that's not right because of this, and this. Because we see the episodes so many times and we edit ourselves watching the episodes, and like we spend a lot more time, and we do things like podcasts, and we spend a lot more time actually watching and paying attention to the show. So I feel like a lot of these theories sometimes come out of a place where people are missing things, and they're not necessarily paying as much attention as they should be when crafting these theories, because while the silver eyes theory was valid, I was like, it's supposed to be rare, and also giving Adam silver eyes doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing that I always thought about it was like there was already like back during the Black trailer days when like Monty had to confirm that Ruby and Adam had nothing to do with each other because his symbol was also a rose.
Yeah.
And giving him silver eyes on top of all of that would have just fueled theories.
I mean, and especially because we're
definitely.
about to lose him altogether next chapter, so he's about to be gone, so it's not going to matter one way or the other. I'm losing the chat completely. It's going too fast. What's happening? I thought he didn't have any eyes. Yeah, that was another popular theory, was that he either had no eyes or he was blind. He is blind in one eye, so the theory's half correct. But
I never thought he was blind, because I was like, he looked at things too frequently. I'm like, like even if he was like Toph wouldn't have seen that. So like, it's just stuff where I'm like, I don't know if I buy that he's blind.
I never bought into the theory that he was blind, just because I was like, he behaves like he can see. If that makes sense. Like, I always felt like he did behave like somebody who didn't have their vision. Maria is a prime example. She still has her vision, but it's not great. So, like, she doesn't see too well. He doesn't need his eyes to fight. No, but it was moments outside that. Yeah. Like, in the Black trailer, when he, like, kind of gestures at Blake. Like, that seemed like something he saw her. Yeah, I gave up on theorizing about what was behind Adam's mask like 4 volumes ago. I was like, I don't care. They'll tell us one day. But seeing them reveal what it actually is was extremely interesting and very telling about him. Okay, like, I forget the name of the person who's responsible for animating Blake's ears this volume again.
Oh, I can't remember either.
Somebody please throw her Twitter in the chat, because she's incredible. But Blake's ear, like, flicking back because she hears Bumblebee coming, which, by the way, parallels, but and foreshadowing going on there.
I've made this joke so many times, but I'll wait.
I know the joke you're gonna make, and I hate you for it already. But her ear flicking back because she can hear the bite coming, and even though Yang's not necessarily very close at that point, but she's a cat, so obviously she has really good hearing. But that there are so many visual cues telling us here that Blake was like, okay, she can hear Yang coming, and she looks around because she can hear it, and she's like totally ignoring Adam while he's like emoting in front of her right at the moment, and I love it. She's like blanking the fuck out of him, and I live for it, because she's like, my bae, she's coming. And like the last time that this confrontation occurred, she was alone, and like when Yang showed up, it all went very bad. So I feel like all of this is probably going through Blake's head at this moment. And she's like, oh crap. I wonder how much she was thinking about like, oh fuck, it's going to happen again. And how scared was she for Yang? Is my question.
I don't think so. I think that because of the way that like the next couple things go down, is she was like, she's coming to save me. We can do this. Like I don't feel like she was afraid.
I feel like
it was more like backups on the way.
Yeah, I feel like there might have been a level of fear, maybe especially when Yang was taking on Adam by herself. And like she shows it at the end of the fight as well that she's really like afraid that Adam's just gonna kill her. Which he is capable of doing. Losing my train of thought again. That's wonderful. Yeah, and Adam's like, "How does it feel to be alone?" And that look that she does right as he's about to like stab her tells us that like, okay, she's got something up her sleeve here. And for them to pull the same shit that they pulled in Volume 3,
I know.
We're like, bitch, we ain't falling for that again. She's fine.
I had a moment where he stabbed her, and I was like, she's fine. She's fine. But the shot just kept holding, so I was like, right as I was about to be like, wait, and then it cut back to her, the clone disappearing, and I was like, God damn it, Rooster Teeth. I doubted myself.
See, I had the opposite feeling where, like, when he stabbed her, I literally didn't react at all. And the shot lingered for so long that I was like, she's fine. And then, like, when the clone disappeared, I just went, I knew it. Because I wasn't worried at all, because I was like, they're not going to pull the same shit that they pulled before. So, yeah, then she picks up a sheath, which magically has reappeared in the scene.
I want to point this out, though, because I noticed this while I was taking my notes for this episode, is that, so in the wide shot, when he's raising his weapon to stab her, you can see on the ground her shadow move.
And I haven't actually gone to look at this yet, but...
And then he stabs her, and you can see behind him where she's about to appear up, a shadow on the ground where she's about to appear. And so I'm like, wait, she can like literally travel through shadows now? Like,
I don't know
what?
if it's so much she's traveling through shadows as it is that's our visual cue to be like, she was here, now she's over here. But and by shadows he means like the shadow that the sun casts, not shadow clones. Yeah, that I feel like that's more of like a visual cue and as to be like, okay, she's over here now. She's not actually where she looks like she is. Aobishi 101 is the animated fairy. Sounds right. Yeah, go watch that again, Pishin, and have a look. Shadow Possession Jutsu. She was dabbing when she swung through the trees.
God, there's so many dabs.
There's so many dabs this volume.
Yes. Yeah, I was like, I know she's fine. I knew she was fine. Adam clearly hasn't learned very well from last time. Because she keeps managing to pull this shit on him and he keeps falling for it. I'm like, Adam, you know what her semblance is, right?
He continually underestimates her.
He does.
All the
and
time.
That's the thing. That, again, is his complex. And he keeps underestimating her. So Blake did lose this fight, but she managed to pull it out at the end, and because she knew that help was on the way.
But that wasn't the point. Is she just needed to stay alive?
She just needed to stave him off for long enough. Yeah. She probably figured that Yang would figure out something was wrong before too long. My favorite shot in the entire chapter. This gorgeous shot of like up at the sun of Yang ditching the bike mid-air. Fucking beautiful looking shot. It's lit so beautifully, and just like the silhouette of her jumping backwards off the bike as it like reams towards the camera, and you know what's about to happen.
Well, my favorite shot of this volume was 2 seconds later when he is flat underneath it.
That's
like,
also a good
I
pick.
paused that moment, and it is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love the sound design of that moment because it was so meaty, the thud.
Yes, the
and
sound design.
I felt it.
Another moment in the chapter that I went back and replayed just to listen to all of the sound was this moment when the Yang ditches the bike, you hear the engine, all sound cuts off for like a second, and then and it just hits him like a ton of bricks, and I'm like, oh my god, that sounds real. That sounds like a motorcycle hitting a person. It sounds so real, and it's so meaty, and you feel the impact of it. And it is the most satisfying thing ever. I did so hard I broke my mic, yeah. And Bumblebee hit Adam like a ton of bricks in all senses of the phrase. Yang's Aurora moment. Yeah, it was so meaty and it sounded so real, and oh my god, the sound design in this chapter, fucking amazing job. But yeah, the bike just colliding with him and flinging off the cliff. I was like, I had a very quick succession of reactions here where I was like, oh my god, he just took Bumblebee to the face, that's awesome. And then the bike flips off into the water and I'm like, no, Bumblebee!
No!
So, rip Bumblebee. Rip Bumblebee, rip Blake's coat, rip Gamble's shroud, what else? Rip Yang's arm.
Those are too many inanimate objects.
Yeah, rip Yang's arm, sort of.
But the joke that I keep making, that Beck hates, is that it's like, from the ashes of one Bumblebee, another will rise.
I hate you so much. They literally sank Bumblebee so the ship would sail. They sank one Bumblebee and they sailed another. We need to flex tape the fuck out of everything. Flex tape Adam's face, that'll fix it.
Oh, God.
Oh my god. And I'm also like, throughout the last chapter and this chapter, I'm like, how are their auras still up at this point? Like, Blake just...
I know,
right?
right?
Adam just got hit with a fucking motorcycle in the face. How does he still have a working aura at this point? They both fell off a 60-foot tall tower, through trees, onto the ground, no aura breaks. They've been fighting, hitting each other this whole time. Adam's taken a few hits. Blake's taken a lot more. Nobody's aura has broken yet. Throughout the whole second half of this fight, Yang versus Adam, she kicks the fuck out of him. Still nothing. I'm like, how fucking strong are people's auras? Like, I feel like aura breaking has just become a thing of convenience in RWBY. Like, they only break people's aura when they actually want them to get hurt. I feel like they're breaking the rules of they're breaking their own aura rules, and it's driving me a little nuts in this, because I'm like, okay, Blake definitely shouldn't have an aura. Adam definitely shouldn't have an aura anymore after the Yang versus Adam portion. I'm like, how is his aura still up? And he keeps using his semblance too, as well, yes. And like, how does he still have a working aura? I don't understand. It's gotta go down, and it's gotta go down quickly now. Yang kicked the fuck out of him, so I don't understand how he still has one. But, yeah, okay. This fight. Oh my god. This fight, I'm gonna say it. Yang versus Adam is the best animated fight in the show, period. It is that good. That's how far I'm gonna say that, in my opinion, it is the best animated fight in the entire show. It is beautiful. It's flawless. I couldn't pick any flaws with this fight at all. It looked phenomenal. It was just amazing, and I was so not ready for how good it was gonna be. So I squeed with excitement when I was watching this. I was like, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in RWBY ever. The score was amazing. That when Yang first lands into the frame like a badass, the Armed and Ready score kicks up, and it continues throughout this whole thing. And I like that they used Armed and Ready, because Armed and Ready was about Yang recovering from her delimbing and being like, if I ever see Adam again, that bitch is dead. And that's what Armed and Ready is all about. So to have that score playing here, extremely fitting. Wouldn't have had anything else. When Adam realizes who she is, it takes him a second to recognize her and to like place her. And he says, you. And then Yang immediately like fires at him. I'm like, that is Yang being like, yes, me, bitch. We have a fucking score to settle. Also, you get away from my girl. And there was a bit of animation here, which I touched on briefly at the start, which was the thing that they fixed. So when I was initially watching my reaction and the first few times I watched the episode, Blake says Yang's name and then clutches her side and falls to her knees. Initially, that animation looked janky as hell. They've fixed it. I watched it again last night and it's way smoother and it looks heaps better. They've actually fixed that. So props to them for going back and fixing that because it did look really, really awkward in the initial release of the episode. She fell down too quickly and there were like missing frames going on, but they've gone back and they've fixed it and it looks way better. So yeah, that was nice. This fight, oh my god, I cannot sing the praises of this fight enough. It just looks so beautiful. It is paced perfectly. The score beats are perfect. Adam fighting was incredible. It's good to see him like fully in action, not holding back. Actually actively trying to kill Yang, as terrifying as that is. But I was like, she's fine. She has gotten so much better since the Fall of Beacon. It's been 1 year of story time, roughly. She has improved by leaps and bounds. She is nowhere near the fighter she used to be. She was kickboxing the fuck out of him. She was evading so many of his attacks. She was like dodging and weaving and just looking for opportunities and not making the same mistakes that she did last time she faced him. And she is just phenomenal. Like, nobody can tell me she's not the best fighter on Team Ruby's side, because the fact that she could even hold her own against Adam like this and do some serious damage to him is a testament to how good she is.
Especially after we see that Adam stopped holding back and is like coming at her with everything he's got, and she's just like, bitch, please.
She was not only holding her own, but she was kicking his ass. And I love that she was doing that. My favorite thing in this fight was when she like does those mega like fast punches at him, because the sound design, her effort, and like the visuals of it, if you frame by frame it, you notice that she has 5 arms at one stage. And it looks really, really weird, but because it's so quick, again, it's that thing of smear frames that we talked about last week. Because it's so quick, you don't notice it in real time. But she turns into what's the many-armed Indian thing? I forget what they're called, but
becomes Buddha.
Buddha, duh. Buddha. How can I not think of the word Buddha? She turned into Buddha for a couple of frames there, but it's fine. She just, oh my god, she kicked his ass, and he did one-up her towards the end, but she is just such an intelligent fighter now. She knows when it's appropriate to attack and when it's appropriate to evade. And this was an extremely fast-paced fight. So, like, it was hard to catch everything, even after a few times watching it. I literally went frame by frame to this fight to see everything in the choreography, because it is very, very fast. Adam's semblance reveal. Did anybody else get the feeling that this was a little bit of a cop-out? Because I did.
I mean, they've talked about his semblance in the past after the Black trailer, and like they basically implied that like he stores energy in his sword.
Yeah. The reason the reason I felt like it was a cop-out is because I thought it was so much more than what it was. The way they explained it was like Blake's like, his semblance is like yours. He stores energy and sends it back when he's ready. But that doesn't explain how he's able to do the like shadow cloning thing that he does.
I was going to bring that up.
Why
like,
is he so fast?
Where do these
Why
clones?
can he apparently teleport? Like, how does he do all of these things if it's not his semblance? That's the thing. So I'm like,
I think
have
in
so many
some
questions.
ways it might just be trying to visually illustrate like how good of a fighter he is, that he is on that other level. But there are some parts where it's like that's kind of overdoing it a little.
Yeah, I wonder if like there's a little bit more to his semblance than what Blake described it as, because she kind of had to describe it quickly. But
yeah,
I wonder if the energy he stores, he can project, like return not just in damage, but that the fact that he's storing this energy allows him to do these things, like teleport all over the place and stuff like that. He can use the energy to different effects, not just to dish it back. But yeah, I mean, Blake had to explain it kind of very quickly, and even the amount of time she took to explain it while Yang was standing there was too long. For what was like happening, I'm like, what's Adam doing right now? Is he catching his breath? like, what is Adam doing over here right now? Like, this bit lasts for 16 seconds and it's too long. I was like, you're in the middle of a fight. Go be in the middle of a fight. But Yang's response to that being like, he can dish out damage without having to feel it. Oh, that's just cheap. Because she obviously has to feel the damage that she takes in order to store it up to use her semblance. We didn't see her use her semblance this chapter, but I'm still going to say we're going to see it in chapter 12. There's no way they're not building up to Yang using her semblance here.
Definitely.
Especially with the last shot where you could feel like she was just about to do it.
Yeah, I was half expecting her to pull her arm down and her eyes to be red. And I'm surprised they didn't do it, but also I feel like they didn't do it here because they wanted to save it for chapter 12. This fight is still going. This fight's not over. We need Blake and Yang versus Adam. And the two of them together should be more than formidable for him. If Yang was doing that well on her own, with Blake, should be easy, theoretically. Of course, we don't know if Adam was still holding back. That's a scary thought. I don't think he was, but...
There's so many theories about Adam cutting off Yang's hair.
I know, it's weird. It's
because Dan brought it up last week, too.
Yeah, it's really weird, but I'm like, I mean, yeah, drawing parallels and stuff, but at the same time... I don't think Yang's hair is going to be the thing to push her over the edge right now.
Yeah.
I feel bad things are going to happen before she activates her semblance. Very bad things. I don't...
Or it's going to be that, like, she's going to wait for... Because we see that she watches for opportunities, and she's going to wait for that one chance, and she's going to be like, now...
Yeah, exactly, Dodge. If she uses her semblance, it'll be the first time since Volume 3. Her eyes have gone red since then, but she has not used her semblance since then. So, and there's a very good reason why she hasn't done that, is because she has been teaching herself how to fight without it. Because Tai Yang made the point to her, you used your semblance to win every fight in the tournament after the qualifier. And that kind of was her realization moment that, I do use my semblance to win every single fight. Maybe I should stop doing that. Because she is capable of winning without it. That's the thing. So, clearly. Yang's semblance is not passive. It's super aggressive.
Yeah.
She
picks the moment. She dishes it back.
Yeah. She can choose to activate it, but she can also... It can activate despite her as well, depending on her emotional state. Yang's semblance is interesting because it has a lot to do with her emotional state. And when she gets angry, it sort of fires up. And when she's trying to protect somebody. And, like, especially in Volume 3, when she did lose her arm protecting Blake, her semblance had no reason to activate there, other than she was like, I need to protect Blake. That's the only reason it activated. And, of course... The fact that she lost her arm the last time she used the semblance has probably had a very deep effect on her as well. Like, she's probably pretty hesitant to use the semblance here, because it did not go well for her last time. I don't want to stick to my theory about Blake getting really hurt, and that being the push for Yang to use her semblance, but I'm going to stick to it. I don't want that to happen, but I feel like it might, so...
Yeah, they're kind of moving that way.
They're moving that way. Something terrible is going to happen, because this fight isn't far from over. So, the red eyes might not have to do with her semblance. The thing is, the red eyes and the semblance are always in conjunction, where when she uses her semblance, the red eyes are always there, but when she uses her red eyes, the semblance isn't always there. So it's interesting. Her eyes go red when she's angry, but it doesn't necessarily activate her semblance. But when her semblance is active, her eyes are always red. So, yeah, it's interesting in that regard. Does she gain power up passively? She has to be hit to store the energy.
Any damage that her aura takes.
The stronger the hit, the more energy she stores. And Tai Yang described it as, like, once she takes damage, she can dish it back twice as hard. And that's how her semblance builds up. No, we're talking about a show called Ruby, my friend. So if you haven't seen it, you're not going to know what the heck's going on. Something bad will happen. Yeah, it's got to happen before the end. They're building up to something here. They've drawn too many parallels with Volume 3 to not be building up to something terrible happening before the volume's over. So, yeah. Chapter 12, calling it now, not going to be good.
Yeah. And talking about predictions for Chapter 12, one of the things that's been talked about a lot this week, especially on Ruby Rewind, was they talked about the references to Beauty and the Beast that have been in the show. Because that's what Blake is based off of, that's what Adam's based off of. And Yang kind of fits into that dynamic as well. And like just the little things here and there that, especially in this fight, that keep coming up that remind you of Beauty and the Beast. Like the thing that they had pointed out in Ruby Roo was that when Adam sent back that final blow at Yang, when it hit her arm, it looked like claw marks. Which in Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast protected Belle, he ended up with claw marks on his arm.
On his arm, yeah. Same arm, yeah. Yeah.
And, like, I didn't see it at first, but going back the second time, I'm like, yeah, that looks similar. And just, if we're going in that sort of vein, the final fight of Beauty and the Beast happened in a high place, like, you know, the cliff they're standing next to. And someone ended up falling to their death while someone else got gravely injured. So
Gaston fell to his death, and the Beast got mortally wounded and died and came back to life. So it is interesting that they are drawing very specific Beauty and the Beast parallels, like with the claw marks on the same arm. Definitely a very deliberate reference to that moment in Beauty and the Beast. No
Plus
way
also,
that's not deliberate. So
yeah, and also both Blake and Yang fit the roles of both people in Beauty and the Beast. Because like in back, like literally the first thing we ever heard in the Red Like Roses preamble is Black the Beast and Yellow Beauty burns gold. Yeah. So like that sets up, you know, Yang is Beauty and Blake is the Beast, but like also Yang is angry, so she can also kind of be the Beast and now has the claws. And you know, in Blake and Adam's version of Beauty and the Beast, Blake was Beauty there. So there are these parallels between them where they kind of both fit into both roles.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Ruby characters are loosely based off these fairy tale characters, but they don't hold hard and fast to the rules of these fairy tales. Ruby takes the rules and bends them and twists them, and they use them as a base, but they don't necessarily stick to the stories. Yeah, I'm aware that the Corner Remnant's going live soon. We're going to wrap up here shortly. Do you think Yang or Blake will get mortally wounded and get healed by Jean? No, because Jean's nowhere near them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're very different fights happening right now.
I'm still worried that Blake's going to get mortally wounded. If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Blake. It's not going to be Yang. Yang's going to be fine. But I called it about something happening to Yang's arm this chapter. I'm still wondering if she's going to lose it altogether by the time this is over. Like, I still love the visual of, like, that, it's not necessarily a theory, but, like, people have been like, imagine if, like, Yang just rocket punches Adam off the cliff with her arm. Would be amazing. Because we know she can do that. They've shown us that before, that she can just, like, fling it out at a fast velocity. So if she, like, punched him off the cliff like that, it would be amazing.
I've envisioned so many different ways he could die.
Yeah, me too.
I just really see Adam going over that cliff.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no way he
like
doesn't.
I said, it's it's very Beauty and the Beast, which also, I meant to say this earlier because I had referenced it earlier when we were talking about the blue eyes. That was a thing in Beauty and the Beast, was that the Beast had very blue eyes.
Yeah, that's the
very blue, very human eyes, and that's
yeah, and that's where the blue eyes have come from as well. Yeah, so thinking about that doesn't seem as strange now, but it still looks a little weird on him though.
It definitely looks weird.
Yeah. Yang's a more evasive fighter. I mentioned that. when he finally knocks her back, and Yang and Blake look at each other, and Adam looks pissed off, and like I was literally sitting here thinking to myself, even Adam could see the bees at this point.
Yeah,
like
he got jealous.
He did.
That was
a jealous rage when he went into the negative attack that he does. That was a jealous rage. He looked at them and saw the way they were looking at each other, and he could see it. And I think that was the turning point moment for me, where I was like, "This is going to happen, isn't it?" When Adam could see it, I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's definitely there. Like, there's no more mistaking it." The way Blake screamed Yang's name here gave me chills. But I was like, Blake, honey, relax. She's fine. Everything's fine. Like, but the way, the fear in the way that she screamed her name, like just warning her, because she saw what Adam was powering up to do. But Yang's not an idiot. She's been here before, and also she has a super strong arm now. And what the fuck is that thing made out of? Because it took all of that. It took all of that. Like, it was nothing. What the heck is her arm made out of? It's like, oh, it's got a few scratches. Bitch! She should have been obliterated. Yeah, the way that Yang just, like, looks at him when she pulls her arm down, she's like, nice try. You're gonna have to try harder than that. Adamantium. Unobtainium. Yeah, there was a it was a little scary, but because they built up to it so much, I was like, Yang's fine. She's gonna be fine. Everything's fine. This is fine. One other thing that I want to mention is when Blake grabs Yang's hand, the look that Yang gives her, she kind of looks surprised. Like, bitch, you're really holding my hand right now? This is not the time. Like, do you see what's going on here? But it's a really weird, kind of cute look that she gives her. And I'm like, oh, you precious little bean. It was not the moon slice, no, that's true. But it was something similar to it. And then Blake being like, she's not protecting me and I'm not protecting her. We're protecting each other. Calling back to when in chapter... Oh, God, I'm going to get the chapter wrong. 5. Yep, 5, got it. When Blake said, if we ever see him again, I promise I'll be there. I'll protect you. And Yang was, like, really taken back by that. And, like, because you could tell she was thinking, like, I don't need you to protect me, or I don't want you to protect me. That's not how she wants to be seen. She doesn't want to be seen as somebody who is invalid and needs protecting. And Blake has since realized that, and now she's like, I'm not protecting her, she's not protecting me, we are protecting each other, we're keeping each other alive, we're keeping each other safe, and we're working together to protect ourselves from you. Connor Remnant's live. Yeah, no worries, we'll be wrapping up soon. But I love that she corrected that sort of mistake on her part from earlier, and she has realized since that she did say the wrong thing there, and she's like, actually, I don't need to protect you, and you don't need to protect me, but we can work together to keep ourselves safe from this psycho. And we can work together to defeat this common enemy that we have. Yeah, so really nice moment. Only other thing I wanted to talk about was the lyrics to Big Metal Shoe, which is the song that plays in the first half of the chapter. Because I have them here. Very, very difficult to hear this song over everything that was going on in the chapter. I couldn't hear shit. I heard like the first couple of lines and then mirror, mirror, and that was it. And I was like, I can't hear anything that's going on. And because all we could really hear of it was mirror, mirror, people were like, another Y song, ugh. And I was like, bitch, it's not a Y song. Listen to it. Like, it's a little bit of everything. It's fairy tales all mixed together. And we only have a small section of it, so there's more still to come.
I just thought it was another White song initially because, like, the only part of it I understood was Mirror, Mirror. And I literally went, we're getting another White song? I thought we were kind of done with the Mirror.
That was my initial thought when I heard Mirror, Mirror. I was like, seems a bit weird, but okay. But then when I listened the second time and I really tried to listen to it, I was like, I can hear something about Red Riding Hood and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, this is a little bit of everything mixed together. Well, I mean, the problem is the lyrics are so hard to hear because there is a lot of sound going on in the foreground. There's a lot of action sound and all of that sort of stuff going on, so it's hard to hear. But unfortunately, that's the way it usually happens when there's a song in the background of a fight like this, because there's a lot going on. But anyway, the lyrics I have here. Check you out in your big metal shoe, fighting so many kids don't know what to do. That was the bit that I heard, and then I couldn't hear any of the rest. You got some heavy metal, but big ain't bad. This little Riding Hood's just way too rad. I mean, yeah. Mirror, mirror, who will lose it all? Soundly whip those children, or your cradle's gonna fall. Weird. But yeah, it's using all of these like nursery rhymes and fairy tales and stuff like that. So, because I'm alive like a puppet with a heartbeat. I'm on fire and I'm flying off the dope sheet. Don't know what that means. You're going to wind up like that Robin at your last tweet. You're heading for a fall and you're nearing the end like a house made of straw. No one's putting you together again. So, like, loads of fairy tales and nursery rhymes all stacked into one, even in that small section that we're getting. And there's, like, a whole, like, 2.5 to 3 more minutes of the song to come. So, yeah, I really like what we got so far. It is like a diss track, you're quite right, Christian. And Jeff Williams also confirmed that this is about Caroline Cordovin. It is not from her perspective. It is about her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, clearly from the lyrics, it's like, it's the team.
So many people were saying that, like, oh, it's from Caroline's perspective. And I'm like, no, are you listening? No, it is not. Read the lyrics. Credits make it so much clearer. Yeah, the first bit is in the credits, as per usual. But yeah, the rest of it was very, very hard to hear over the episode. Which unfortunately usually happens. But at least we do get given the lyrics, so we can talk about them and analyze them. Lady in the Shoe, Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Humpty Dumpty, and Pinocchio. Yes. They gave us the full first bit from the episode in it, so it's good. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything covered in Chapter 11. What an incredible chapter. I cannot wait for tomorrow for Chapter 12. I don't know if I should stay up and watch this one, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep. Sorry.
No, don't do it.
No, I probably won't. I'll probably get up early to watch it.
You'll never sleep.
I'll get up early to watch it tomorrow, I think.
You'll either not watch it and not sleep, or you'll watch it and not sleep.
Either way, I ain't sleeping tonight. And the Three Little Pigs, yeah, as well. I am definitely going super social media silent tonight, like an hour before the episode's released, because I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to see anything. I don't want to know. Although the thumbnail, title, and description and episode length will be coming out today. So if you want to find this out, you can go to my Discord, which I will post in here now. There is a chat called Ruby Volume 6, which is where all of the news and all of that discussion gets posted about Ruby. Yeah, you'll drop it once it comes. Yeah, you guys usually do. You're on it. The Corner Remnant is also live right now, so when we are done here, make sure you head on over to Larissa's Twitch and watch the Corner Remnant. We could raid her, to be cheeky. We've never raided at the end of a podcast. We don't usually, but yeah, make sure you head on over to the Corner of Remnant and check them out, because they will now be discussing the chapter as well. I feel like it's always interesting to hear people's different opinions on the episodes. But we've already talked about our predictions for tomorrow, but my main ones are Adam dies. Adam dies, chapter 12. If he doesn't die, I'll be annoyed. I was going to say I'll be surprised. I won't. I'll be annoyed if he doesn't die. Adam dies. Blake's going to get hurt. Yang's semblance. Mech gets destroyed. That's my main predictions for chapter 12. Grim Reaper.
I don't think that the mech gets destroyed. I think Adam dies. They take out the arm. There's a lot of, like, damage done, and then the Grim shows up.
Yeah, I definitely think if there's a Grim happening, it's getting revealed at the end of next chapter. I also am feeling like next chapter's going to have a longer runtime. I'm going to guess about 17 minutes. I'm sticking to chapter 13 being around the 25-minute mark as well. Because I don't see how else they're going to have enough time to wrap all this up.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll see. What about you, Laurelei? What are you thinking for chapter 12?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, I think it's time for Adam to die.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Yang semblance is going to finally be put in effect. And I think, yeah, Grim are on their way.
Definitely.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I have one last question for you guys. Are the bees being confirmed next episode? Yay or nay?
Yes. Bees. Definitely. At least by the end of chapter 13.
I'm going to say I'm really leaning more towards 13.
I don't know if they're going to fit it in chapter 12.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, if not now, chapter 13, by the end of the volume, there will be Bumblebee canon, basically. Oh, Cory, did you want to say something about...
I didn't know if you would want me to go on my rant or not.
Go for it.
Okay. So I've been very frustrated this week with a lot of happenings in the RWBY fandom because, like, I don't know. It's just... I feel like... I mean, clearly this episode divided the fandom extremely.
Yeah, it was very polarizing.
A lot more extremely than I thought it was going to. But I'm just very frustrated with people, like, constantly talking about, like, the toxic Bumblebee shippers, which, I mean, there are toxic Bumblebee shippers, and people addressing, like, but that's not all the Bumblebee shippers, but, like, people aren't also addressing the like, toxic anti-bees that are out there who, like, we've seen this week, like, sending out death threats to people who support the ship and to the creators of the show, and, like...
Which is never on at all, in any form.
And yeah, and I've just been so frustrated with, like, I don't know, the way that, like, the fandom so focuses on, like, the Bumblebee ship outside of stuff, and I'm just like, it's a fandom-based problem, not a Bumblebee problem.
Yeah, it's definitely...
And I'm kind of just tired of it being painted that way.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Toxic shippers exist in every ship, and, like, I'm not surprised at how much backlash has happened, because after chapter 7, when we met the Cotter Arcs, and the sheer amount of negative feedback and just sheer hatred towards the LGBTQIA plus community, just from those two characters, I was like, I was not surprised at the shit show that happened after this chapter dropped, because people not only are the same people who were shitting on the Cotter Arc thing are now shitting on this. People are very protective of their ships. And the fact that it's leaning towards this ship being canonized is, like, obviously making everyone who doesn't support the ship or is anti-Bumblebee really angry. And obviously there's a lot of homophobia involved out of it as well. Yeah.
But that's the thing, is it's not just homophobia,
no,
though.
It's not.
Because there are just people out there who are just, like, against the ship for other reasons. And so that's also why, like, I do want to put in that disclaimer there, where, like, saying that all anti-Bumblebee shippers, they're not all homophobes. No. It's just, you know, all the homophobes are anti-Bumblebee shippers.
Well, obviously, they're not mutually exclusive unless you're homophobic. But, yeah, no, there are people who don't support the ship for their own reasons. But, like, whatever, ship what you want to ship. But whatever you say and however you feel is not going to change the canon. Once the canon is canon, that's it. Doesn't stop you from being able to enjoy your other ships. Like, since when has a canon relationship ever stopped anyone from shipping those characters with other characters? It hasn't. So
Amen to that.
I don't get why everybody is kicking up such a stink. Like, it's not going to destroy your other ships just because the canon is shifting one way or another. I'm just like, just everybody let everybody else be. Ship what you want. Don't be a dick. Seriously, like, and we talked about this so many times. It's getting old, but like, we shouldn't have to say this, but unfortunately we do because human beings suck. But not all human beings, but and they're the minority of people. These people are the minority. The unfortunate reality is the minority is very loud when they like to voice their opinions about things, which they're entitled to have. But at the same time, nobody's ever entitled, and we said this before, nobody's ever entitled to attack somebody else for their opinion. Like, I feel like people are just entitled in general and think that they can spew hate at others for not thinking or feeling the same way that they do. That just makes you a piece of shit. Like, don't do that. Don't be an Adam here. Don't be an Adam. Be a Blake.
I know. I just like it. Like, just how many people there were out there talking, like, it kind of ruined my enjoyment of the episode a little bit because of just, like, how many people were out there, you know, like, just shitting on things and, like, trying to ruin the experience for other people. And, like, it's just, like, I wish people would just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy and, like, not try to convert people and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's why I'm so worried about, like, if Bumblebee does get confirmed canon, you know, something I've been waiting for forever. I'm worried about the fandom kind of ruining it for me because it's like because I want to be able to cheer and like be like, yay, I'm so glad, but I'm just, you know, worried that there's people out there like it's pandering and like all these other things and it will ruin it for me.
There's no way to get around it. People are gonna say it's pandering no matter what, when in actual fact we basically had Barbara confirm that this was meant to be the plan all along. She hasn't said it in so many words because she's not allowed to, but she has more or less told us that if something like this happens, it's because it was planned from the beginning. Or not necessarily from the very beginning, but somewhere along the way, they decided that this was where these two characters were going. And it has nothing to do with anything the fandom has shipped or has wanted or whatever. So, and I just love the people who like think that bitching and complaining about it and hating on people is gonna change anything, because it's not.
I mean, especially at this point, like they are done. Like it's written, it's done. They can't change it.
The show's gonna do what the show's gonna do, regardless of what we say. If they stop watching the show, good riddance. Exactly. If you stop watching a show over something as trivial as two main characters being in a relationship with each other, or it at least being hinted at, oh my god, good riddance to you. Like, that's your problem.
I talked about on your Discord that, like, if a ship being canon ruins the show for you, you are watching it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. And we do need to wrap this up anyway.
We do need to wrap up, I know. That's why
so anyway.
So I was worried about you letting me go on my rant, because I'm like, I'm going to add another 10-15 minutes to this.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so Chapter 12, super, super, super excited. Remember, you can go to roosterteeth.com and watch Chapter 11 from tomorrow. It is out for the public at 2:30 a.m. my time, but I don't know what time it is. Is it 7 p.m. Central?
It's 9 a.m. Central.
9 a.m. Central.
10 a.m. Central.
10 a.m.
9 a.m. Eastern.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's 9 a.m. my time, that's why.
And everybody's reactions to Chapter 11 will also be out tomorrow, so make sure you check out Lorelei's reactions as well, because I love watching hers. And yeah, all of our reactions will be out tomorrow. Cory, will yours be out tomorrow?
Yes, I got mine. I got mine uploaded before you did.
You did, yeah.
After last week, I took no chances.
Yeah. Everybody's reactions will be up tomorrow. Chapter 12 will be out for first members tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. If you do not have a first membership, you can go to roosterteeth.com, sign up for a free account, You don't need to pay for anything, and you can get a 30-day free trial for first membership, which will cover you for the last 2 chapters of the volume. Please make sure you do that, because you are directly supporting the show by watching it on Rooster Teeth first, even if you're not paying for your first membership. Please consider, though, continuing your first membership. Even if you only have a first membership during Ruby season, you are still supporting the show. It is... How much is it now? I don't even know how much it is. I don't know.
I can't even remember.
I think it's... Is it $10 now?
I've had a first membership for a long time, so, like...
Yeah, same.
Years. So, yeah, please support the show directly by watching it on roosterteeth.com when it becomes available. If you can't afford a first membership, make sure to get that 30-day free trial, so you are supporting the show by watching it on Rooster Teeth first. Thank you so much for being on, Laurelei. It's been a pleasure having you once again.
It was fun. I loved it.
And, yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Goodbye.